ice storm.
That's the name of a movie.
I had a mile of train to run. I was going to Maybrook, New York in 1982, maybe? And it was an ice storm. I made it to work. Got on the engine. My car was covered with ice. I managed to make it there without, all the highways were shut down. Everything was shut down. They were warning everybody not to go outside because when the raindrops came down, they froze. The surface of the ground was so cold that all the moisture that came down, it was torrential rainpours. And when it came down, it froze when it hit the ground. And the ice built up. And it was so slippery that nothing was moving. All the cars were sliding off the road, even if they were parked on the road and they moved a little bit, or you moved in the car, it would slide off the road. I managed to get to work that day before it got that bad. And I got up on my engine. Everything was covered in ice. But it didn't matter. I took my motors down. I changed ends. I tied onto the train. Got my air. The whole mile of train was ready to go. Guys in the caboose were ready. Everybody was ready to go. Ran through my brake test. The signal was given to me. I got the green signal to go. And I pulled out a notch of power, right? On those engines, there was like 12 notches of power. So every notch, when you pull it out, they have an amperage gauge. And the amperage gauge would go way up. And you watch it go up. And as it started to come down, the amps, that's the amount of power you're putting into the traction motors, right? So when it was way up, you were putting a lot of power into the traction motors, right? So as that came down, you'd grab another amp, you'd grab another notch, and it would keep it, you always keep it at a certain level, right? It's like amount of pressure you're putting on something, right? So you're pulling at a certain rate on that all those that weight, that millions of pounds of weight you're pulling at a certain rate, right? Not too much, but you're pulling at a certain rate. So what you're doing is you're pulling all those knuckles out, and they stretch out, and then they start moving the next car, and then the next one stretches out, moves and so on and so forth until you're a mile long, right? A mile back, you do that. So the last car in the train starts to move, right? And everything is stretched out. So that's the way I started that day with the ice storm. And the ice was built up on the rail. It was all shiny and glistening. And the sun was going down, and the night was upon us, right? So it was dark, and the headlight shone out, and it was like a wonderland. The reflection from the light in the ice, everything was ice. So I get all these brilliant colors coming back, and it was like, it was beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful. And I was the only one seeing it because everyone was home. Right? It was cool. I loved it. And I spent all night long going through that storm. And when I was in Danbury, trees had fallen over the track. And they were about maybe 14-inch trees, pretty good sized trees, fell right over the track. I'm going 40 miles an hour, right? With a mile-long train. I'm not stopping for a tree. Right through the tree. Right through it. Bust that tree right out of the way. I had like 2 inches of steel in the front of that train on the cow. Used to call it a cow catcher, right? They used to have ribs in there, and when the cows, they run into the cows, they bump them off. You know, they used to call it a cow catcher. But now they put a snow plow on there, made of this 1.5 inch plate steel. You go right through a tree. That doesn't bother me. Go right through it. What am I going to do? I'm going to put the brakes on and stop a train because there's a tree in front of me? Nah. Go right through the tree. So I went through everything. I don't know how many trees I went through that night. All kinds of stuff. And I went all the way to Maybrook, New York. Set the train off, did everything. Then I personally went to bed, but the rest of the crew went to it was called a Pink Rabbit. It was a bar, and they'd all get toasted. They get toasted, and then they get toasted, go to bed, get up in 6 hours, and take another train back for 14 hours. They were Iron Men. They could handle, you know, they didn't live too long, but they could handle all of that stuff, you know. It was so funny. Anyway, so but the main thing that night with the ice storm was how beautiful it was. Mm-hmm. You know, all the little tiny branches were covered with a 1/2 inch of ice. Mm-hmm. And they'd be, everything was bowing down in front of me as I was going through the forest, right? It was all bowing down, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd be going through it was like, there's not too many people who have experienced. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that experienced that type of thing in the middle of the forest, because most of our track was out in the woods, in the backyards, in the field, in the out of the way places, right? So that's where we used to go all the time, out of the way places. We were on the main. We didn't go on the main road. I was going up Shelton Dam one time in Derby, Shelton. You know, you've heard of those places out of in Connecticut there. I was going up a mountain one time, and I saw this kid and his father and another kid in a boat, and they went over the side of the Shelton Dam. They tried to turn around, but they couldn't. And the guy was trying to start the motor, and the whole boat and the kids and the father went over the side of the dam. It went right over the dam. Mm-hmm. So I got on the radio and I said, "There's a Mayday, Mayday! We have a Shelton Dam. There's people that just went over the dam." And best I know, they saved the 2 kids, but the father died. You know, by the time the cops got there and everything, they saved the 2 kids, but the father died. He drowned. So, another time I was running on the train in the same area, right? There's a park over there, Shelton Dam, and there was a guy who, he had a car, not sure what kind of car it was. It wasn't a. It was a car with headlights that closed and opened when you opened them up, right? So it wasn't a Cadillac. It was an American car, Imperial, something like that. I'm trying to think of it. I know it, but I can't think of it. But anyway, that's beside the point. I was doing 40 miles an hour, right? That's the speed. I came around a curve in Derby. I came around a curve along the Housatonic River, right? I came around a curve, and I went around another curve. These are all 40-mile-an-hour curves, right? Came around another curve, blowing for the whistle, and there's a car on the track, right in the middle of the track. And I'm laying on the horn. The horn will wake up if you're sleeping, believe me. Very loud. This guy, he's passed out in the front seat of the car. I ran right into him. I couldn't stop. You know, by the time I put the train into emergency, right? To brake, first, what you have to do, here's what you have to do to put a train into emergency. You have to pull the throttle out all the way, put all the power on. On, yeah, stretch the train out. Slap it into emergency, right? And hold that throttle out. Because you want to keep the train stretched out. All the brakes on the train will come on. The train will stretch out, right out. You know, it's like a chain we talked about before. It's a chain. So you pull the chain tight, right? And the engine, the motors, you bail off on the motors. There's a separate brake on the motors themselves. You bail that off, and you let all the power pull forward, and then you notch it off, right? That's how. If you break that train in half and you come to a stop, the tail end of your train may slam right into you, right? Could kill you, could knock you right off the track. You gotta be careful of that. So you don't want to mess around with that. You want to make sure you do it right. So that's what you do. So I see this guy on the track. I ran into the car. I hit the car, right? It spins around and it comes into the engine, on the side of the engine. And there's all kinds of stuff on the side of the engine, heavy stuff, right? Valves and shit like that. The car comes out. It busts that car up. It breaks all the glass. It tears all the sheet metal all the way around the car. Breaks all the glass in the car. Doesn't turn it over, but it kicks it out, and he runs into a telephone pole, and he's hung up on it, and it bent around the telephone pole, right? So by the time I come to a stop, I wasn't supposed to, by law, you're not supposed to get off the engine. Because that's private property. On the engine, you're on private property. You get off the engine, you're not on private property, right? So you're not supposed to get off the engine. But I was young, and I got off the engine. I ran back, and I looked in and the guy is still in the car, and he is trying to get out of the car. He woke up. He's trying to get out, and he's kicking and he's kicking. Finally, the door comes open, right? He had to open the latch on the door, but it wouldn't open. It was bent a little bit. So he finally gets it open, and he says, "What the hell is going on here?" And everybody, we're all standing there, the conductor and me and, the brakeman is saying, "What? You just get hit by a train, our train. What the hell are you doing on the middle of the track?" He says, he says, "I just had a date, and it was a wonderful time." And He said, well, he says, I got hit by a train? I said, yeah, that's what you did. You got hit by a train. What the hell are you parked in the middle of the track for? He says, oh, no. I borrowed this car from a friend of mine to take a date out. He says, what am I going to do? I said, I don't know. Here's the cops now. So the cops came, and they said, Bob, what are you doing here? They all knew each other, you know. They was all family, you know. They knew each other. He says, oh, man, you're toasted, you know. So anyway, that was one time.
He was fine.
That was one time. He was fine. The car was totaled.
Lucky.
Then I was coming down Greenhaven, where that prison was one time. I'm coming down a mountain, right? And it was foggy. You couldn't see anything. But I knew where I was, you know. I saw the whistle post, and I'm blowing to my whistle and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, there's this kid standing in front of me, right in the middle of the track, and he's going, and then he jumps out of the way. I go, oh, jeez. So I put the brake on, right? I put the brake on. And all of a sudden, then I see a van, right? A van, and the back of the van is up onto the track. Right?
No.
I could be able to go to sleep.
Just a couple more minutes.
So the van is backed up onto the track, right? And the bumper is caught on the track. He tried to turn around, and he got caught on the track. And when he went forward, he spun his wheels. That knocked the trap rock right out from underneath your wheel, and you set down on the track, and you can't move. Right? So that's what this young kid did. So I come around. There's nothing I can do. I got a mile of train behind me. Right? Blowing the whistle, you know, and I see the car. So I put the brake on, and I dumped the brake. I had it all stretched out, pull the throttle out, stretch the train out, come to a stop. And this is where the buffalo are, by the way. Right? This is Greenhaven. This is where the buffalo are. It's called Stormville. At the bottom of the hill, Stormville, right? Appropriate name. That's where everything used to happen to me. So I hit this kid's truck, and the steel in the front of the motor grabs the truck, throws it, and picks it right up. It doesn't go that way. It goes in front of the motor, and it tumbles in front of the motor on the ties. You know, it gets caught on the ties, you know, the metal, and it's crushing the thing. It's spinning around, getting smaller and smaller, and then it goes ping to a lake. There's a big lake over here, reservoir, right? And it goes down into rocks. There's, you know, it's 20 feet down, and there's all boulders along the edge, you know. Goes down, and it gets caught into a boulder, and it's just sitting there in the boulder. And the kid says, he comes running up when I stop. He says, oh my God. He says, mister, he says, I think I can get my truck out of there. I said to him, do you have insurance on that truck? He says, no, I just bought it. He says, I don't have any insurance. I said, whoa. I said, you can't get it out of there. There's no truck. There is no truck. You got a pile of metal on the rock over there. That's all you have left. And that kid started crying. I mean, I felt bad for the kid. You know, the young guy, he just bought this big expensive thing, and he was fishing on the lake, and they went to turn around and leave, and they got caught on the rail. Then I came along, right? That's where I got the buffalo, the same spot. So, it's crazy, right? It's crazy.
That's powerful.
Oh yeah. Well, the things they can, the different elements. When you're moving heavy equipment like that at 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. How about the time I killed a guy in Merrimack, right? I must have told you about that one, right? He's hiding behind the platform, right? He wanted to kill himself. He was adamant about killing himself. I'm doing 90 miles an hour. Merrimack, 90 miles an hour, right? I'm not stopping there. That wasn't a stop. This guy, I think he knew the schedule. He had a timetable, right, where he planned it out. His wife must have died, or he had cancer and he was terminal. There was some kind of scenario like that. Why did he step in front of my train when I was going 90 miles an hour and commit suicide? When I hit him, he exploded. His brain went onto my windshield. I saw the brain on the gray matter with the white fluid and everything, all in my windshield. Right? And the priest came up and asked me if I was okay. There was writing in the head car. He came up. He saw what happened. He says, "You okay? Can I pray with you?" I said, "Yeah, you can pray with me. Not for me, but for him." Right? I mean, I felt bad that the guy did what he did, It was my fault. I was by the letter. I blew my whistle, I was blowing the whistle. 10-car platform, done 90 miles an hour. I blew the whistle. I was laying on that whistle all the way down the platform. Then I see this little guy with the red hat come out. I thought he was a railroad worker. I didn't know he was going to commit suicide. I thought he was a guy working. And he was right at the end of the platform. I could see the hat, so didn't think nothing of it. Then all of a sudden I see the guy come out in front of me. I went, whoa. I'm blowing a whistle, the headlights are on, the whole thing, big object coming down the track, right? And I'm flying 90 miles an hour, right? And this guy steps right in the middle of the track and looks right at me. So I was talking to another guy one time, and he said he used to go, this is freight train, right? This is back on the Maybrook branch, right? Mm-hmm. He's only doing 40 miles an hour. And he said there was a place over there where people used to commit suicide all the time. And he had 3 or 4 people there. And all he did was see arms and legs flying. Well, after he hit him, the arms and legs would be flying. So a lot of people try to commit themselves. So I'm in Danbury one time. I'm coming out of Danbury.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Will you please stop talking?
I'm almost done. I'm almost done, Lorraine.
Yeah, you're making me get aggravated. I'm about ready to go for a walk.
So I'm coming down.
There's the top bunk where it's very comfortable.
No, I can't sleep.
Yeah, we're almost done.
We're almost done.
Give me 3 minutes. 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. I'll shorten it up. 2 minutes. So
Just 2. I'm listening to a good story. Hold on.
I'm coming down. It's the last time I'm going to tell a story in my life.
Put the
Come
pillow on
give
your
me a
head
break.
one more.
So I'm coming down this grade, right? And there's a whistle post. It says W2, right? W whistle post. And then there's a 2 underneath. Two crossings, right? So I'm blowing for the first one, I do the long, short, long, and, boop, 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 boop. That's the rule, right? So I'm coming in there, so everybody hears that, So blowing a whistle, coming down in there. I'm doing like I think that's 30 miles an hour right there on that piece of track. So I got to slow that whole mile-long train down to 30 and keep that right on 30 miles an hour down in there, right? So you have to put so much air on to slow the thing down, stretch it, make sure you have it stretched out, and you maintain that 30 right down through there. I came to the next bridge, and there's a guy sitting on the track with a raincoat on, right? And he's got his long hair, and he's got a shopping bag, a brown shopping bag next to him. And I blowing a whistle. The guy doesn't move. So I put the brake on, right? Put in emergency. Well, I hit him, right? Because where it was, I came around a corner, so I didn't see him right away, right? Came around a corner, all of a sudden he's there, put it in emergency, and I'm still doing maybe 20, right? And at the time we had catwalks, right? There were grates, like steel ribbing, you know, in front of the engine where you could stand on it. Well, that hit him. That ribbon was about that high off the track, and it hit him right around the waist. And it picked him up and threw him over to the side. So, right? That's a hell of a thing to get hit by a train like that, right? And it threw him out, though. It threw him over to the side. So we ran back there, right? And he is face down on a grate, a big grate on the side of the track. And they're about 6 feet down. There's leaves and debris, and it's another layer. You know, this was, I don't know, just a place for people to walk and stuff like that. Right away kind of stuff, right? It's just a grate. Well, blood was pouring out of his face down onto the leaves. We figured he was dead, had to be dead. So the police came and, you know, took our names, took my name, all his particulars, right? And we went home. We were released and we went, right? So we were wondering how that guy made out, whether he died or what. I would have gone to his funeral, I think. So we thought he was a derelict, you know. That's what he looked like, a derelict. Well, he was released from the hospital 8 hours after he got hit with a Band-Aid on his nose. Nothing wrong with him. That's God watching out for those people like that.
Wow.
Right? He was completely drunk. Sat down on the track. He had some groceries with him. He was on his way home, and he got hit by a train. And he was fine. Band-Aid on his nose.
Wow.
Right?
Right, good night.
In Danbury, right? In Danbury.
Come on, please.
In Danbury, they had a passenger train going. Guy was standing on a platform. The train hit his arm. That's how close he was standing to the track, right? But the train didn't stop there, right? Train was a high line. It you know, it was going by that station.
Right.
It hit his arm. It broke every bone in his body. on the platform dead. If you get hit with a piece of steel just traveling 30 miles an hour, right? Or 40 miles an hour, or 50 miles an hour, all it has to do is touch some part of your structure. It'll break every bone in your body. Serious stuff. And that's what I tell when I run that little cart for the church, right? I pull up to the railroad and I tell everybody, don't go near the railroad, because before you know it, the train is upon you, and you don't even know it's upon you, because it's silent, because it's welded rail. There's no noise. Boom. It's there. You're on it. It's on top of you. And it's a big steel 200,000 pound engine. You know, scare you, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, you can be careful. So that's what I tell them. Right? So stay away from the railroad. Right? 25,000 volts in the overhead wire. It jumps out 18 inches. It'll grab you and fry you. Don't go near it. Stay away from it.
Will you please put him to bed?
Yes, dear.
Come on. You know, I'm gonna be up all night because I'm way past my bedtime. I mean, I don't think you're being fair.
Well, let's see what time it is.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes to 11.
Say good night, Bobby.
10:48. Yeah, good night, kid. Get over. Good night, get over.